Mastering data archiving. You must hold on to archived data for a shockingly long time to avoid regulatory hell. What is the required duration for which we must retain archived data in order to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements and maintain necessary historical records? The required duration for retaining archived data is a critical aspect of data archiving, as it directly impacts an organization's ability to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements and maintain necessary historical records. The retention period is influenced by various factors, including industry-specific regulations, legal requirements, business needs, and organizational policies. Regulatory requirements. 1. Financial services. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, requires firms to retain records for a minimum of 6 years, as mandated by the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. 2. Healthcare. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, requires healthcare providers to retain electronic protected health information, IFI, for a minimum of 6 years. 3. Financial institutions. The Bank Secrecy Act, BSA, requires financial institutions to retain records for a minimum of 5 years. 4. Tax purposes. The Internal Revenue Service, IRS, requires businesses to retain tax-related records for a minimum of 3 to 7 years, depending on the type of record. Industry-specific guidelines. 1. Aerospace and Defense. The U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, requires contractors to retain records for a minimum of 10 to 20 years, depending on the type of contract. 2. Pharmaceutical. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, requires pharmaceutical companies to retain records for a minimum of 5 to 10 years, depending on the type of product. Organizational policies and business needs. 1. Corporate governance. Organizations may choose to retain records for a longer period to maintain corporate governance, ensure accountability, and demonstrate transparency. 2. Auditing and compliance. Retaining records for a longer period may be necessary to facilitate audits, compliance checks, and risk assessments. 3. Business analytics and intelligence. Retaining data for longer periods allows organizations to analyze trends, identify patterns, and gain valuable insights. Retention period considerations. 1. Data classification. Organizations should classify data into tiers based on their importance, sensitivity, and relevance. This classification helps determine the retention period for each data tier. 2. Data storage and retrieval. The cost and complexity of data storage and retrieval should be considered when determining the retention period. Organizations should weigh the benefits of retaining data against the associated costs. 3. Data management policies. Organizations should establish clear data management policies that outline the retention period, data classification, and data handling procedures. 4. Data protection and security. Organizations must ensure the security and integrity of retained data to prevent unauthorized access, data breaches, and reputational damage. Recommended retention periods. 1. Short-term retention, 1 to 3 years. This period is suitable for transactional data, such as customer interactions, sales records, and general business operations. 2. Medium-term retention, 3 to 7 years. This period is suitable for financial records, tax-related documents, and human resources data. 3. Long-term retention, 7 to 10 years. This period is suitable for sensitive data, such as confidential business information, intellectual property, and critical infrastructure data. 4. Permanent retention. This period is suitable for historical records, such as company archives, legacy system data, and critical business documents. In conclusion, the required duration for retaining archived data depends on a combination of regulatory requirements, industry-specific guidelines, organizational policies, and business needs. Organizations should carefully consider these factors to determine the optimal retention period for their archived data, ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements and maintaining necessary historical records.